Hey everybody, welcome to Breakfast All Day. Alonso here with Matt and Christy. We are all still remotely making this happen, and we appreciate you spending another week with us. We're going to kick off as we have been of late. Matt has a new photo montage of marquees around the country of movie theaters that are closed for the duration, but sharing messages of hope and sometimes jokes with their clientele.
Yes, thank you to everybody that sent in pictures this week. We have a whole new batch. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll start with the first picture that came up that we're using for the clip that Christy and Alonso have not seen yet. If you've tuned into this, you've seen it.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
Where is this? This is very cute.
This is in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Nice.
I think that pretty much sums up how everybody feels here.
Yes.
All right. So this next picture is...
No, this is, for people who are listening to this, we should read them, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is the neighborhood theater in Charlotte, and it just says, F you, COVID-19.
Direct and to the point.
Right, direct and to the point. All right. So these next couple of pictures are from Will Oliver in Suffern, New York, at the Lafayette Theater. On one side, these were up for Star Wars Day last week or earlier this week. May the 4th be with you from Yoda. Advice to flatten the curve. And then this next picture is from around the other side. Remember, Red, hope is a good thing. Quote from Andy Dufresne from the Shawshank Redemption. Okay, so a couple people sent me this next picture, John Rathbun and Baba Jana. This was tweeted by Esther Stay Home Chu. The Lake Theater and Cafe is recommending that people check out stuff on Hulu. Portrait of a Lady on Fire was really good. It's on Hulu.
It is indeed. It's also on the new, which I'm sure Chris will be talking about, the new Alamo streaming service.
I will. We'll get to that in our news portion of the show. Where is this Lake Theater and Cafe?
You know what? Nobody, I don't know where it is. So somebody could say something in the comments. Presumably near a lake.
One would think.
One would think.
Veronica Lake owns it. I don't know.
Maybe. All right. So this next one is Bobby Lane in Keene, New Hampshire. This is the Colonial Theater that offers a standing ovation to first responders.
Did you notice the posters in front that say no close encounters of any kind?
Yes.
That's really cute. Keene is a little college town in southern New Hampshire. Keene State is there. There you go.
All right, so this next picture is from Monica Castillo. It's the Nighthawk Theater, which was showing Onward, and then on one side it says, see you on the other side.
That's in New York, right?
Maybe it is.
Monica Castillo is, so I would think it might be.
Maybe so.
Okay.
Maybe so. Okay, so this next one, Daniel Sibner in New York sent a few pictures of theaters around New York, the Film Forum, telling us we have nothing to fear but fear itself, reminding us the great words from President Franklin D. Roosevelt. On the other side, reminder, wash your hands, don't touch your face, stay safe. And then the Cinema Village, a little worried about this one. See, soon closed due to CVD9. I thought COVID-19 was bad, but the CVD9 I'm really worried about.
I think it's supposed to be the number one. I think it's supposed to be COVID-19.
Yeah, it's a kerning issue.
Yeah. No, it's more of a chemming issue, I think. The designers know what I'm talking about. All right, so this next picture is from Thomas 22 in Oakland. It's the Grand Lake. I think we've seen this set up before. There's a daytime shot of the Grand Lake saying, double feature coming soon, Death of the Coronavirus Plus, the end of Donald Trump.
Yep. You can do that in the Bay Area and everyone will agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So Jake in Milwaukee sent us a few pictures of the Fox Bay Theater, and they're clearly having some fun in Milwaukee. Lord of the Couch and Fellowship of Binging, 2 boxes of takeouts, and then Return of My Ex. So that would be your Lord of the Rings trilogy there.
That's cute.
Then No Corona for Old Men. Good vaccine hunting.
Very cute.
A great double feature. And then now showing Raiders of the Last Two-Ply, World War C.
World War C. It does kind of feel like a zombie invasion, doesn't it?
It does. So thank you, Jake, for sending those in. Next one, Hannah Benshop in Perth, or sent us this picture of the Luna Palace Theater from Perth, Australia. Oh, and it didn't come up. Oh, sorry about that. Hang on. Let me find it. Let me get it.
Is it upside down?
No, it's just not showing up. Hang on. I got it. Here we go. Now showing
Cute.
the social distance network.
Cute.
And then my favorite is this last one from the Elk Grove Theater. Remember, in these times of hardship, just remember, we are Groot.
We are. Groot is a unifying force in these troubling times.
Right.
Indeed.
So that's it for this week. Thank you, everybody who shared those. Please keep them coming. They're super fun. Gives us something to look forward to. So if you see funny marquee pictures, or even that one from Elk Grove, it's not. I don't know that it's technically a marquee. Sort of. I mean, it's not over the theater, but the fun movie signs. Please send them in.
Please.
And it's just so nice to feel connected to people, right? Like we're all in our little boxes and our little homes, and we know our little 3-block radius, whatever. So it's nice to see what life is like, other parts of the country, other parts of the world, halfway around the world in Perth, Australia. So thank you for staying connected with us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's do some news.
Yeah, catch us up, Christy.
The most important breaking news of the week is that Roger Deakins has a podcast. If you do one thing with your time, after our podcast, of course, it is the Team Deakins podcast. My great hero, Roger Deakins. If you've seen this show before, you know that we are fans here. So he and his wife, James, who has collaborated with him behind the scenes quite a bit for many years, they have this podcast, and they kind of interview each other. And there are 7 episodes already. They just debuted it last week, a week and a half ago, but they're putting them out once every few days. And in the beginning, they're talking about how they got their start in film, and then they've gotten more specific as episodes go along with lighting and lens
like one of them was on
choice.
lens selection.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
so if you are super into the geeky nuts and bolts of filmmaking, and you wonder, like I often do, how'd they get that shot? Well, this is a kind of great explanation, and maybe it will inspire you as you're creating stuff of your own at home, and you're using your time that way.
Do we want to point out the irony that a cinematographer is doing an audio-only series?
That's a really good point. He's just so charming.
I remember when director's commentary started popping up back on Laserdiscs, people would talk about how, why go to film school when you can listen to these people talk about how they did all this stuff. I would put this in the category of, if you want to kind of teach yourself the nuts and bolts of filmmaking, who better than Roger Deakins to walk you through all the minutia. Right.
He's very generous. Given what a complete genius he is and how massively accomplished he is, he's really humble and generous. So a must listen, the Team Deakins podcast. But in other news, and there is other news, so there was a story in Variety this week. I'd love to talk to you guys about this, where Christopher Nolan is saying that he wants Tenet, his upcoming big summer blockbuster, to be the movie that brings film back, and that is scheduled for release on July 17th. And so many movies that were the tent poles all summer long have been pushed to the fall, or pushed indefinitely, or the Fast and Furious 9 got pushed all the way to next spring. He, of course, he's such a huge proponent of film and of the experience of seeing it the way it's intended, that he's like, that would be great. July 17th, let's bring it back. And it's a nice idea, but it seems awfully optimistic, and it also seems kind of arbitrary. It kind of reminds me of Trump saying, Easter, we're going to open up again on Easter with this big, beautiful churches packed with people. It's sure we are.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if he doesn't want his movie to go direct to streaming, I totally get it. And he has the clout to tell Warner Brothers, nope, we're not doing that. We're gonna pick this new date. But for him to sort of camp out on that date and decide that that's when the world is going to be ready to go back to movie theaters, it's like, dude, take a step back. This isn't about you and your movie as much as a lot of us are excited to see it. There are other factors at play here over which you have no governance at all.
Yeah,
I'm seeing polls about how people are still really apprehensive to go out. Whether or not their cities or their states begin reopening, folks are still feeling cautious.
Absolutely.
Well, look, sure, he can have that movie be the one that brings us all back to the theaters, but he better be ready to keep moving that date back, because I don't think, what he's looking for is the, if not national, then the global release, right? And I just don't think that that's realistic. Yes, we're hearing about different states and different places in the country, in the U.S., and probably international, that people are, looking at, we'll open some stores and these kind of phased approaches back. But I don't think movie theaters should be anywhere near the top of that list because you got a bunch of people in a closed room, and that's gonna, I don't know that that's the best. I mean, look, I think that I firmly believe that we're probably going to see a second wave of, I'm not an epidemiologist, right? So I don't know, but I could entirely see that we get a whole other wave of infections because people were got out too fast, right? And yes, I understand that there's a desire on a lot of people's parts to get the economy up and running again in various places, but it just, we don't have a vaccine yet. I mean, at this point, we don't even know, the latest reports that I've seen, and again, I'm not an epidemiologist, but there seems to be, it's unclear as to whether even having the virus has given you antibodies to keep from getting it again.
We don't know, right?
No.
So Tom Hanks still not out of the woods.
Oh, yeah. Idris Elba too. Be safe, Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Stay home.
Yeah, there's too many variables here, and it's like, again, no knock on Nolan, no knock against this movie that we're all excited to get to see one day, but I find this very premature for him to come leaping out and to be like the guy that we're going to all go back to the movies for when no one knows what the hell July is going to look like.
Right. I mean, we're in California where today, as a matter of fact, things are starting to reopen in stages as far as more kinds of stores being open for curbside pickup.
And are you leaving the house? I'm not.
No, my husband's at Costco right now, but we've been doing that anyway and being careful and wearing a mask and all that. But trails are opening in places, not in PV. There's keeping PV closed, but I'm still staying home. What also opening, which I also don't want to take part in, Carnival cruise ships. August 1st. That's an
exploding petri dish as it is.
I'd say those were hot zones in the best of time.
Have you guys ever been on a cruise, A or B, a Carnival cruise? I have.
I mean, I've been on the local in the bay booze cruise, but
I went on the first TCM cruise and it was lovely, and I did not come down with anything apart from a brief bout of seasickness. But yeah, in this day and age, getting back on a contained thing with a bunch of people, no, thank you.
No, thank you. Yeah, I went on a Carnival cruise in the fall of 2008. It was like those 3-day trips to Ensenada and back, and it sucked. I would never do it again. So August 1st, though, for folks who do want to do this, Carnival cruise ships are going to resume from Miami, Port Canaveral, and Galveston. So I'll jump on that. Yes. Other things to
Danger seekers.
Other things to look forward to. Alonso mentioned that Alamo Drafthouse has launched a video on demand platform with a bunch of really, really great independent distributors. And so among the choices are things like Parasite, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Burning, RBG, Skate Kitchen, and some really, really great indies and docs over the past several years, but also some older stuff like they have the Ramones Rock and Roll High School. So that launched this past week. So I would say jump on that if you've watched everything you want to watch on Netflix. Here's some really great stuff in the last few years you can watch. Also, if you're bored at home in August, the new Twilight book is coming out. Have you guys heard about this?
Yes.
You know it is. It's called Midnight Sun. It's Twilight from Edward's perspective. It couldn't be stupider.
Which, as somebody pointed out, I thought Twilight from Edward's perspective was the 50 Shades of Grey books.
That's a good point. That's how that began, right? Yeah. Stephanie Meyer has played this out on August 4th. In case we are all still trapped, it'll probably take you all of 10 minutes to zip through it, but.
Do we think Robert Pattinson would touch that role again with a 10-foot pole? Or is he like, bye?
No. He's like, I work with the Cronenbergs.
Yeah, I got a Claire Denis movie to make.
The Safdies of the world.
I mean, money talks though, right?
I don't know. But I don't think that matters to him because look, he could have taken all that money coming fresh off of being Edward for 3 movies, and he chose to make stuff with David Cronenberg and the Safdies and
Claire Denis. Yeah, these are not the money roles. Yeah,
right,
although he is the Batman is the money role.
Right, but
Tenet is the money role, right? He's in that.
Sure. But look, imagine that a studio comes. I mean, knowing what that movie would make, right? We know people have paid $20 million in the past. Somebody comes to him and says, "We'll give you 30."
I was about to say he's a little old, but then he is playing like 110-year-old. So,
Yes,
so
he's magical.
Digitally,
He sparkles in the sun, and you can do that at any age, I think, right?
True.
Okay, so also coming up, so it's been announced this past week that Taika Waititi is going to direct and co-write a new Star Wars. There's a new Star War to be had. Christy Wilson Cairns, who co-wrote 1917, is writing it with him. This was announced on May the 4th, of course, Star Wars Day. I don't even know, do we?
Because we need a day to spend more time talking about Star Wars, because no one's doing that ever.
No, we totally.
Do we know what this new Star War is going to be even?
No, we don't know anything. It will be one of those kind of offshoot stories like Solo or Rogue One. There's been rumors that they would set something way, way, way in the past. Around the time of what they call the Old Republic, there was, and possibly pulling some ideas from the Knights of the Old Republic video games, which are terrific games. The first, at least the first one's awesome. Second one is mostly really good too. But who knows? I'm happy to hear, it'll be fun. I have to imagine that it'll be fun giving that to Waititi, seeing what he did with Thor Ragnarok, because he can, he's shown he can play in his sandbox and still leave his own stamp on something.
His cheeky brand of humor.
Right. And the other kind of related news, I mean, this isn't new from this week, but it sounds like most of the shooting for the second season of The Mandalorian had already been mostly finished. And so we are supposed to get that in October of this year.
Yes, and of course, Taika Waititi was the droid who has this great evolutionary arc in that, right? He changes.
Right. Cheeky nugget.
So we'll
speaking of Mandalorian, speaking of Mandalorian, you guys want to see what I wore to the grocery store the other day?
Did you wear your Boba Fett helmet?
I did.
Oh my God, how'd that go? That's much better than the guy who wore the clown hood at the grocery store in Santee. That's much better.
By the way, totally out of bounty paper towels, though. So the bounty hunting.
You were literally a bounty hunter. I like it.
In other Mandalorian news, we're getting a Baby Yoda cereal this summer. Oh, we are seriously like corn puffs
and my Baby Yoda Tiki Mug is on order. So when I get it, I will show it off.
Please do.
Is that a Yoda behind you?
That is a Yoda. And if you look over my right shoulder, that is the Mondo Stay Puft Marshmallow Man Tiki Mug.
Nice.
No, but there's a green one over your left shoulder.
Yes, that's Yoda.
So you'll have a Yoda and a Baby Yoda.
That's really cute. So
the child, I know.
Look forward to eventually Nick Cage is going to play Joe Exotic in a scripted series. Is that too on the nose?
That's a Mad Lib. That sentence.
It's too easy, right?
Well, I mean, David Spade as Joe Exotic would have been too easy. Right? I mean, it's basically that would basically be Joe Dirt too.
He is.
It's a little on the nose, but I'll allow it.
Anyway, and of course we'll talk about it when that happens. I know you guys aren't watching The Last Dance, but a lot of people are, and because of that, ESPN is going to keep airing these sports documentaries on Sunday nights. They're going to capitalize on folks already being in front of their TVs. Well, they're broadcasting Korean baseball. The KBO. It's weird times though, because they're halfway around the world, and so the games are like at 5:30 in the morning Eastern time.
Welcome, and every World Cup fan in the U.S. is like, welcome to the party.
We've been opening bars at 2 a.m. every 4 years now. So they're going to have new Sunday night documentaries. One's on Lance Armstrong. One is on Bruce Lee. And then there is one from AJ Snack, a longtime documentarian AJ Snack, on Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa. Who were they, guys?
They were competing.
They were roided up batting
to beat out, was it Roger Maris's at-bat record? And they were both taking performance-enhancing drugs.
Right.
Very good. It's sports adjacent. So that will be coming up. Plus The Last Dance is done, which is in a couple of weeks. Then they'll continue airing things on Sunday times. The Last Dance, yes.
I know about McGuire and Sosa because my friend Dan Laughlin did a short film about it that I screened in Dallas back in the day.
Okay, very good. Also, something to look forward to. Spike Lee has announced that he's releasing The Five Bloods on June 12th. An amazing cast, including Chadwick Boseman, Paul Walter Hauser, Delroy Lindo, Jonathan Majors. So it's a Vietnam War era drama.
Okay.
What else do I have for you? That might be it. I don't have as much this week.
Do you have the We Are One Global Film Festival?
Oh, you know what? I do have that somewhere in my old notes. It's not till May 29th, but yes, it's a cool thing that's happening. Yeah, it's a bunch of film festivals. It's like Toronto and Berlin and Venice. And what all is it, Alonso? Do you know all the details of it?
It's going to be happening on YouTube. They're going to be screening films that each of them had programmed either for previous years or for this year. I don't know if it's going to wind up just being shorts and docs. There will also be some features thrown in. But the whole thing is to raise money for international COVID-19 charities. And there will be a link on the page. There's already like a page set up on YouTube, and you can already give to like the UN efforts in this regard. But the whole thing is going to be a fundraiser, and yeah, it's a collaboration between like a lot of the world's major film festivals. I think Sydney's in there too, so it's going to be
cool. Ah, shoot, the gardeners are here. And then one more thing. I'll go close the door. The Troubadour is in trouble. Legendary longtime music site, the Troubadour.
As seen in Rocket Man.
I was going to say, if you have seen Rocket Man, this is the place that really launched Elton John. It's a fantastic place to see a show. We've seen so many bands there. We've seen like Against Me and Concrete Blonde and Tom Petty, and it's a lot of people. So, and the Toadies. Apparently they're in trouble though, as so many places are when you can't congregate, when you can't all get together in one space like that. And so they have a GoFundMe page. So keep Troubadour alive. That's all I got. It's not a whole lot of news this week.
Okay. Speaking of GoFundMes, real quick, I just want to throw for the Northwest Press, which is an indie comics company, are doing a GoFundMe that they're not really going to profit on, but it's a thing they want to do this summer called Pride Postcards, because Pride celebrations are pretty much being canceled in every city around the country. They're going to print out this line of postcards featuring work from queer artists as a way to reach out to people and sort of remind them about Pride season and, you know, what matters, and to kind of keep the spirit alive even if the parades aren't happening.
Yeah, so Chris mentioned to me that they're doing LA Pride online this year.
Yes, they just announced that it took them long to finally officially
cancel. So how do you do it?
Yes.
How do you do Pride online when so much of it is, you know, reliant on people experiencing life together? That's the joy of it, right?
I think it's going to be Deborah Cox singing. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen for Pride online. We'll find out, I guess.
Interesting. I think it's a really nice idea.
I was going to say, I was glad you brought up the comics publishing earlier, because, you know, we haven't talked about this much, but you know, it's entertainment, movie, TV adjacent is, you know, one of the other effects of this we haven't really talked about is that with Diamond Distributing, which was the big comic distributor, basically closing up shop while under quarantine, that means there's almost no comics coming out. Marvel and DC have both pretty much stopped the release of all of their titles. They're not releasing them digitally because they're not, you know, it's not dissimilar to, you know, theaters. They've decided that, you know, and movie releases, they've decided to hold those, which means that, you know, you're going to have a lot of writers and a lot of artists who are suffering under that.
I thought DC was back. Did I get
Is
that
DC
wrong?
back? Maybe they are back.
Yeah.
Maybe they are back.
I get emails from Zeus and Alice, and I thought I read that DC was back.
Oh, okay. Great. The other thing too, you know, and this goes back to this somewhat related to Tenet, is Warner Brothers is going to go direct to streaming with Scoob, which we'll end up reviewing. That was supposed to be a theatrical release, and this is one of their big summer movies that's now going to be streaming only. I have a feeling Warner Brothers won't specifically provoke NATO the way that Universal did, but Universal is also going to, you know, stream their next would-be big movie, The King of Staten Island, which is the Judd Apatow comedy. That was going to be a summer comedy from them.
Now, is Warner going to do with Scoob what they did with The Way Back, which is that you're going to own it for $20 as opposed to renting it the way the Universal has it, or is it also going to be a 48-hour rental?
I don't know yet. Don't know.
I don't know. I know that we're getting screener links for it on Wednesday of next week, and they're being a little fussy about the embargo. You know, we can't post things until Friday of next week. But I don't know what that release is going to be like. You know, like with Trolls World Tour, you had a 48-hour rental window for $19.99.
I mean, who wants to own that one?
Scoob could be really cute. If your kids are at home, really little kids, they might want to watch Scoob over and over again.
You know what's going to be great next week?
My kid, who's pretty discerning, wants to see Scoob. Yes.
All right, so since he's not here.
Are you going to drag Nick Lemire now? Or what?
No.
No, he's dragging his own kid, not mine.
No. Since Ben has not joined us.
Oh, Ben.
But it is entirely likely Ben will review Scoob based on the age that Scooby-Doo has been around. I will bet good money that Ben will have some long-winded historic story about some aspect of Scooby-Doo or Casey Kasem as the voice of Shaggy. It'll be some, back when,
I learned an interesting Scooby factoid, actually. Velma is based on the character that Sheila Kuehl played on The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. And Sheila Kuehl, of course, later came out as a lesbian and is like a California state assemblywoman.
Interesting. I did not know that. So
I just
you outed Velma.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we all knew. Come on. By the way, speaking of movies going to streaming, Focus is releasing The High Note on May 29th.
Oh, yeah.
That was intended to be a theatrical release as well with Dakota Johnson and Tracy Ellis Ross, and that's now going to be a streaming debut.
So we'll talk about that week.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, friends. That's all I got.
You guys. All right. That was plenty. Don't get me wrong. Thanks for watching. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We're wrapping up this season of HBO's Westworld. We're talking about Hulu's Mrs. America and lots of other fun stuff as well. So check that out. Have a good week, everybody. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time. Bye.